When I rolled up to my own house in a hospital transport van, still wearing a wristband that said IN patient, the first thing I saw was a woman I had never met screaming at a lifeguard on my dock. "You can't let any more non-residents in until they sign the waiver," she shrieked, pointing at a laminated sign that read Larkspur Cove HOA Community Beach. "Guests must check in with Beverly." The lifeguard chair was bolted into my shoreline. There were 30 neon umbrellas stabbed into my grass. Someone had dragged a grill onto my patio and labeled it HOA owned with Sharpie. As the van stopped, a kid ran past, dripping, and yelled, "Move, old dude, you're blocking the beach entrance." I blinked at the chaos. At the lake I had bought 10 years earlier for the privacy, the quiet fishing, the solitude, now full of screaming toddlers, Bluetooth speakers, and a cooler labeled HOA Beer Fund. The EMT unbuckled me and said gently, "Welcome home, Mr. Hollis." I stared at my own community beach and replied, "Did I die and wake up in an HOA-sponsored hell?" Before the coma, I had been boring in a way that should have been HOA-proof. Mid-30s. Software engineer. Lived alone. Paid my dues. Kept my lawn neat, my dock repaired, and my business to myself. I had specifically bought at the edge of Larkspur Cove because the property included a small, privately titled lake, a weird leftover parcel from before the subdivision. My deed said it plainly, Lot 47, including entirety of Hollis Lake, shoreline, and exclusive access rights. No shared beach. No public access. Just me, my kayak, and the occasional duck that screamed like it owed taxes. Then came the accident. Wrong place, wrong time, a delivery truck, and 15 months of my life sealed away in fluorescent-lit nothingness. While I was unconscious, Larkspur Cove elected a new HOA president, Beverly Crandall. Beverly was the kind of woman who wore a whistle as jewelry. She had a binder labeled enforcement and another labeled future enforcement. She referred to herself as the backbone of property values. She treated the HOA covenants like scripture and everyone else like sinners. So when word spread that the weird programmer with a private lake was in a coma indefinitely, Beverly saw not a tragedy, but an opportunity, a large, unused body of water and no annoying owner to say no. In 15 months, she turned my sanctuary into her personal power project. And I chose the worst possible day to wake up, Memorial Day weekend. HOA Beach grand reopening. The next morning, after a night of hospital bed-level sleep on my own couch, I limped onto my deck with a cane and a cup of coffee. I almost dropped both. There was a gate, an actual metal gate, bolted into my fence line where it met the street. Above it, a wooden arch that read Larkspur Cove Lakeside Access with tasteful little painted cattails. A steady stream of residents swiped laminated cards on a keypad someone had mounted onto my fence post. My fence post. The grass down to the water was worn down to dirt. A volleyball net was strung across one end of the lake. 2 paddleboards floated by with teenagers shouting, "Cannonball Challenge," before hurling themselves into the water that I technically owned. I spotted Beverly instantly, a rigid, blonde bob, a visor, and a clipboard. She stood on my dock with the comfortable entitlement of a conqueror. I hobbled down the hill. I'm Nate. This is my house. And my lake. What is all this? She looked at me like I had interrupted a TED talk. "Oh, Nathan." "Yes." "We're aware of your situation," she said, patting my arm like I was an inconvenient relative. "I'm Beverly, HOA president. This is the community beach. You are, of course, welcome to enjoy it like everyone else." "Community beach," I repeated, stunned. "This is my property." "Actually, it's common enjoyment space now," she replied primly. The HOA board passed a resolution to adopt Hollis Lake as shared amenity. It's all in the minutes. Adopt. You can't adopt someone else's land like a stray cat. She tooted. We consulted a very reputable YouTube video on adverse possession. Over the next week, while I mentally sorted out the words adverse possession and YouTube in the same sentence, Beverly escalated. She taped late dues notices to my door, claiming I owed lake maintenance assessments for the HOA beach install budget. She wrote me up for a non-compliant shoreline, citing a lack of approved community color palette for my dock. She slid friendly reminders into my mailbox about quiet hours when my kayak creaked against the dock at night. I caught her on my security camera walking my property with a tape measure, muttering, "We can fit 3 more picnic tables if we adjust the fire pit." Neighbors, emboldened by Beverly's confidence, started talking to me like I was the intruder. "Hey man, you can't leave your canoe on the sand. It's blocking the towel space," one dad told me. "That's not sand," I said flatly. "That's where my lawn used to be." "That's a very selfish attitude for a community member," the guy replied. The line was officially crossed on a Tuesday when I woke to the sound of banging, construction-level banging, on the south side of my house. I looked out the window and saw a crew in orange vests installing a floating swim platform in the middle of my lake. Beverly stood there in a polo shirt with the HOA logo embroidered on it, pointing with a clipboard like a tiny dictator. I stormed outside, phone recording. "You're installing a structure on my private property without permission?" "It's not your lake, Nathan," Beverly said, with the bored tone of someone repeating gospel. "It's the community's recreational water feature." The board voted. We had a quorum. "Do you have any idea how property law works?" I demanded. "Yes," she said. "I took an online seminar." That night, when I pulled my closing documents from the fireproof box and spread them on the dining table, something else jumped out at me. A recent recording from the county clerk's office. An amendment. The HOA, via President Beverly Crandall, had filed a document claiming shared easement rights over Hollis Lake and associated shoreline based on non-use and abandonment during my medical absence. It referenced community necessity and historic pattern of use, which was impressive, considering the historic pattern of use they cited was the last 6 months. Attached were HOA board minutes. Beverly and her loyal board, which, near as I could tell, was Beverly and 2 people who owed her favors, had passed a motion declaring my lake general common element. Then they went to the county and filed it like it was real. She had gone from annoying to fraudulent. The next day, the real shift began. I took my file folder, deed, plat maps, medical records showing I had been in a coma, copies of the forged amendment, to a real attorney instead of a YouTube comment section. The attorney, a quietly delighted woman named Harper, leafed through everything and then sat back. "She filed this with the county?" "Yup." "And then spent HOA dues building infrastructure on property the HOA does not own?" "Yup." "And she's selling access wristbands," I added, sliding over a screenshot of the HOA newsletter advertising Lake Day passes for non-resident guests, $25. Harper smiled, the slow, predatory kind of smile you never want aimed at you. "Mr. Hollis, I'd very much like to meet your HOA president." With Harper's guidance, I filed a quiet title action to reaffirm my exclusive ownership, a complaint to the State Real Estate Commission for filing fraudulent documents, a report to the county zoning office about unpermitted construction and unauthorized public use of private land, and, just for flavor, a tip to the IRS hotline about undeclared Lake Pass revenue. Beverly had accidentally upgraded our feud from annoying neighbor to multi-agency paperwork event. The first crack in Beverly's regime showed up as a white county SUV on a Saturday morning. The zoning inspector stepped out, squinted at the gate, the community beach sign, the lifeguard chair, the floating platform, the grill on my patio, then at the deed I handed him. "So this is all on your parcel?" the inspector asked. "Every inch," I said. "They've been selling access." As if summoned by the word selling, Beverly Power walked over in her visor. "Is there a problem, officer?" she asked, smiling so hard you could hear the enamel grind. "Ma'am, I'm not an officer," he said. "I'm zoning. And yeah, several, actually." She launched into a speech about community, her role as president, and adoptive rights of unused amenities. The inspector listened, nodded, and then said, "Okay. But you can't adopt privately titled property, and you definitely can't build structures on it without permits. This is HOA jurisdiction," she snapped. "Zoning applies to everyone," he replied. "Even people with clipboards." He slapped bright orange stop work notices on the gate and the dock. The swim platform was tagged as an unpermitted floating structure and ordered removed. The grill was noted as encroaching on private residential space. Within a week, Harper had an emergency hearing scheduled for the title issue. At that hearing, in a small courtroom that smelled like old carpet and bad decisions, the judge read through the forged easement paperwork, then looked over his glasses at Beverly. "Miss Crandall, on what legal basis did you file this document?" Beverly smiled woodenly. Your Honor, the community had established use. Mr. Hollis was absent for over a year. The lake would have gone to waste. So your legal basis is waste, the judge asked. We had a quorum, she added, like this was Uno and not property law. The judge turned to Harper. Counsel, are you seeking fees? Oh, absolutely, Harper said. The court reaffirmed my exclusive ownership, voided the HOA's fake amendment, and issued a stern warning about further interference. In that moment, in that stale courtroom, the power line flipped. I wasn't the weird guy with the lake anymore. I was the man the judge had just told, on the record, you may pursue remedies if this HOA continues to trespass. A sentence Beverly would soon regret. The karmic fireworks went off at the next Larkspur Cove HOA open meeting, which Harper insisted I attend. The clubhouse was full. Word had spread, the lake, the lawsuit, the zoning violations. People who had been happily roasting hot dogs on my patio 2 weeks ago now shifted nervously in folding chairs. Beverly sat at the front behind a long table, a gavel in front of her, an American flag behind her, as if she were about to declare war on Canada. We'll begin with old business, she announced. Lake access. Actually, Harper said, standing, we'll begin with my client's cease and desist letter. She handed copies down the rows like a very angry church bulletin. In short, Harper explained, continuing to use Mr. Hollis's lake as a community beach will expose the HOA to legal damages, including but not limited to trespass, nuisance, and recovery of all costs you've poured into improvements you had no right to make. The room buzzed. A dad raised his hand. Wait, so the money we paid for the swim platform was illegally spent, Harper said. Because the HOA president knowingly built amenities on land the HOA does not own, after being put on notice via the title action. Another neighbor whispered, You knew? All eyes turned to Beverly. Beverly slammed the gavel. This is fear-mongering. I acted in the best interest of the community. Our attorney. Your YouTube video is not an attorney, I said. A woman in the back raised her phone. We also found the HOA Venmo. The one where people paid you personally for lake passes. That's not legal, is it? The HOA doesn't have Venmo, a board member muttered. Beverly, do we? Silence. Then, from somewhere in the middle row, someone projected a screenshot onto the clubhouse TV. At Beverly C-Lake Queen. Summer splash. Day passes $25. No refunds. With a selfie of Beverly in a visor, the swim platform behind her. The room turned on her like a flock of geese that had just noticed you holding bread. You made us pay and didn't put it in the budget? You told us it was for insurance. Is the HOA going to get audited? Harper cleared her throat. I've already sent documentation to the State Real Estate Commission and the IRS. They're very interested in this Venmo account. For the first time, Beverly's composure cracked. I was just trying to create community. You created a taxable side business on someone else's property, Harper replied. In a spectacle that would be replayed via phone video in group chats for years, the board voted, in front of everyone, on the spot, to remove Beverly as HOA president, bar her from accessing the lake property under threat of trespassing charges, and commission an independent audit of HOA finances. As the vote passed, Beverly stood, trembling with rage. You're all ungrateful. Without me, this place will turn into a slum. Behind her, through the clubhouse windows, they could all see my lake. Quiet. Phil. Beautiful. Looks okay from here, someone said. Beverly stormed out, visor askew, tripping over a box of unsold HOA Lake Day 2025 t-shirts. The IRS slapped her with penalties totaling $8,000 for unreported lake pass income. The State Real Estate Commission fined her $12,000 for filing fraudulent documents and banned her from serving on any HOA board in the state for 10 years. Beverly's face went white as the clerk read the fines aloud in the county administrative hearing. $20,000, she whispered, her hands shaking. I was just trying to help the community. The hearing officer looked at her coldly. You were running an illegal business on stolen property, Miss Crandall. Consider yourself fortunate we're not pursuing criminal charges.